The beeping of the heart monitor is what I notice first. The rhythmic sound fills the sterile room, steady but somehow ominous. My eyes flutter open, blinking against the harsh fluorescent light above. The white ceiling tiles blur as I try to focus, my head pounding with a dull, incessant ache. I lift a hand to my forehead, feeling the scratchy texture of the hospital gown I'm wearing. The scent of antiseptic and something more metallic, like blood, hangs in the air. Where am I? The last thing I remember is. My thoughts scramble, grasping at fragmented memories. Dinner at home, the pasta she made, the wine, then nothing but darkness. I must have blacked out, and now I'm here. The realization hits me slowly, I've been poisoned. But how? Why? The door creaks open, and a nurse peeks in, her expression professional but with a hint of concern. "Mr. Carter, you're awake," she says, stepping inside. "How are you feeling?" Like I've been hit by a truck, I mutter, my voice rasping. "What happened?" "You were brought in last night," she explains. "Poisoning. We pumped your stomach and got most of it out in time. You're lucky to be alive." "Poisoning?" I repeat, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. "How?" "We're still waiting for the toxicology report," she continues, scribbling something on her clipboard. "But it's important that you rest. You've been through a lot." I nod, though my mind is racing. The nurse's voice fades as I stare blankly at the wall, trying to piece together the puzzle. Poisoned. At home. But by whom? And why? As she leaves the room, I feel an overwhelming need for answers, but my body is weak, tethered to the bed by 4 lines and my own exhaustion. My eyelids grow heavy, and I drift into an uneasy sleep, haunted by the question that has no answer. When I wake again, the room is dimly lit, and the night has settled outside. The hospital is eerily quiet, the only sound the occasional footstep or distant murmur from the hall. I shift uncomfortably, before tugging at my arm, and glance around. My phone is on the bedside table, still on the lock screen. No missed calls, no messages. Not even from her. Where is she? My wife, Rachel, should have been here by now. My heart sinks with an inexplicable dread. She would have been notified, someone must have called her. So why isn't she here? A sudden urgency takes hold of me, and I throw the blankets aside, my body protesting the movement. The room tilts as I stand, but I steady myself, clutching the 4-pole for support. I need to find out what's going on. I need to find her. The hall is deserted, the kind of stillness that only happens in the dead of night. I walk slowly, leaning heavily on the pole, the wheels squeaking softly as I move. My mind is a whirlwind of possibilities, each one darker than the last. What if something happened to her too? What if she's hurt? Or worse? I reach the end of the hallway, pausing at the elevator. The button glows under my finger, but I hesitate. For some reason, the thought of going down feels wrong, like I should be looking elsewhere. My pulse quickens, a strange intuition pulling me toward the stairs. Taking a deep breath, I push open the door to the stairwell. The cool air hits me, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the hospital room. The stairs descend into shadow, the fluorescent lights flickering intermittently. I grip the handrail, descending cautiously, each step echoing in the confined space. As I reach the bottom, a sense of dread tightens around my chest. The door at the landing is slightly ajar, and beyond it, I hear voices. My heart pounds as I move closer, the words becoming clearer with each step. "How much longer do we have?" a male voice asks, low and urgent. "Relax, he's out cold," a woman's voice responds, a voice I know all too well. My blood runs cold. It's Rachel. I push the door open just a crack, peering through the narrow gap. The room beyond is small, clinical, with a metallic table in the center, a morgue. My breath catches in my throat as I see Rachel, her back to me, partially undressed, sitting on the edge of the table. The doctor, a man I don't recognize, is standing between her legs, his hands on her hips, his face buried against her neck. The world tilts on its axis, my vision narrowing to a tunnel as the reality of what I'm seeing crashes over me. This can't be real. This has to be a nightmare. Are you sure he's completely out? Rachel's voice is hushed but tinged with something I can't place, fear? Or excitement? The doctor chuckles darkly, his hands sliding up her thighs. I gave him enough sedative to knock out a horse. We've got all the time we need. I stumble back, the door creaking as I lose my balance. Panic surges through me, my mind screaming at me to get out, to run. But my body won't move, frozen in place as I watch my wife, the woman I trusted, the woman I loved, engage in this grotesque betrayal. The doctor pulls away from her for a moment, his hand reaching for a vial on the table. Rachel leans back, her expression shifting into something unreadable, her eyes glazed over as if she's in a trance. This isn't just infidelity, this is something darker, something twisted. And then it hits me, the poisoning, the hospital, this moment, it's all connected. She's not just cheating on me. She tried to kill me. The realization snaps me out of my stupor. My heart pounds in my chest as I quietly back away from the door, adrenaline surging through my veins. This isn't over. I won't let it be over. But I need to think, I need a plan. I make my way back up the stairs, my legs trembling with each step. The shock is wearing off, replaced by a cold, calculating anger. She thinks she's won, that I'm out of the picture. But she's wrong. When I reach my room, I collapse onto the bed, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. Revenge. Justice. Whatever this is, it's going to end, and I'm going to be the one to end it. But first, I need to survive. The beeping of the heart monitor resumes its steady rhythm, an eerie counterpoint to the storm brewing inside me. I stare at the ceiling, my jaw clenched, and begin to plan my next move. The morning light filters through the thin curtains of my hospital room, casting a pale glow across the sterile white walls. I lie still, my mind racing with the events of the night before. The memory of Rachel and the doctor in the morgue plays on a loop in my head, each time more surreal, more painful. I want to believe it was a nightmare, a figment of my poisoned imagination, but the cold clarity of the morning tells me otherwise. There's a knock on the door, a hesitant, almost timid sound that pulls me from my thoughts. My heart skips a beat, wondering if it's her, but I quickly dismiss the idea. Rachel wouldn't knock. Come in, I call, my voice rough from sleep and the lingering effects of the poison. The door opens slowly, and a man steps in. He's tall, mid-40s, with a weathered face and eyes that have seen too much. He's wearing a cheap suit that looks out of place in the hospital, the kind of outfit that suggests he's either a private investigator or a debt collector. Neither option bodes well. Mr. Carter, he asks, his voice gravelly as if he's smoked one too many cigarettes in his life. That's me, I reply, sitting up a little straighter. Who are you? He closes the door behind him and walks closer, pulling a chair up to the side of my bed. Name's Detective Harris. I'm with the local police department. Mind if I ask you a few questions? My stomach tightens. What's this about? He takes out a small notepad, flipping it open with practiced ease. I understand you were brought in last night due to poisoning. We've been informed that it wasn't accidental. Poisoning? I feign ignorance, trying to buy time to gauge how much he knows. I don't know how that happened. I was home, and then I woke up here. Harris nods, his expression unreadable. Right. Well, we're conducting a routine investigation. You understand, we have to check all the boxes, make sure everything's above board. Of course, I say, forcing calm into my voice. But what does this have to do with the police? He gives me a pointed look, one that tells me he's not buying the act. Mr. Carter, we received an anonymous tip this morning. It seems someone's concerned about your well-being. They suggested that this incident might not have been accidental. Perhaps even intentional. The room seems to shrink around me, the walls closing in. Intentional? I repeat, though I already know where this is going. Harris leans forward, his eyes narrowing. Did you and your wife have any problems recently? Anything that might suggest she'd want to harm you? My heart races, and I feel a bead of sweat trickle down the back of my neck. I could lie, but something in his eyes tells me he already knows. We've had our disagreements, I admit, choosing my words carefully. But nothing that would lead to something like this. He watches me for a moment, then flips his notepad shut. I'm going to be blunt with you, Mr. Carter. The evidence we've gathered so far suggests this was no accident. The poison found in your system was a rare compound, something not easily accessible. We're looking at this as an attempted murder. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Attempted murder. Rachel really did try to kill me. Do you think your wife is capable of something like that? Harris asks, his tone softer now, almost sympathetic. I swallow hard, the image of Rachel with the doctor flashing in my mind. I don't know, I say quietly, staring at the blanket bunched in my lap. I thought I knew her, but now? Harris nods, as if he expected this answer. We'd like to bring her in for questioning, but we can't seem to locate her. Do you know where she might be? My mind races. She wasn't at the house when I left for the hospital. The last place I saw her was in that morgue, with that doctor. I don't know, I lie. She didn't come to see me here. I assumed she was at home. We've already checked your residence. She's not there. Harris stands, slipping the notepad back into his jacket. If you hear from her, or remember anything else, give me a call. He hands me his card, the paper rough against my fingertips. I nod, my mind still reeling. I will. He gives me one last look, a mix of pity and suspicion, before he turns and walks out the door. As it clicks shut behind him, I feel the air rush out of my lungs. Attempted murder. The words echo in my head, over and over, like a mantra. I need to get out of here. I can't stay in this hospital, not when Rachel knows where I am. And that doctor, he's in on it too, I'm sure of it. Whatever they're planning, I can't afford to wait around and find out. I reach for my phone, the device cold and unresponsive as I fumble with it. I need to make a call, but to who? My family? They'd only panic. Friends? They wouldn't believe me. I'm on my own. My thumb hovers over the screen, and then I remember someone who might be able to help. An old friend, someone who's been through the worst of it and came out the other side. Alex. Alex and I go way back, to a time before Rachel, before everything. He's the one person who won't judge, won't question. He'll just act. I dial his number, praying he hasn't changed it. The phone rings once, twice, and then clicks. Jack? Alex's voice is groggy, like I've just woken him up. What the hell, man? It's early. Alex, I need your help, I say, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. It's Rachel. She's trying to kill me. There's a pause on the other end, and I can almost hear him sitting up, the sleepiness gone from his voice. What? Jack, slow down. What are you talking about? I don't have time to explain, I say, glancing at the door, half expecting Rachel to burst through at any second. I'm at the hospital. Can you come get me? I need to get out of here. Jesus, Jack, Alex mutters, but I hear movement in the background, the sound of him getting dressed. Yeah, I'm on my way. Just hang tight. Thanks, I breathe, the first bit of relief I've felt since waking up. And Alex, be careful. There's a lot more going on than I can explain right now. Got it, he says, and then the line goes dead. I hang up, tossing the phone onto the bed. My heart is still racing, but at least now I have a plan. I'm not going to sit here and wait to be a victim. I'm going to take control, find out what Rachel's up to, and stop her before she can finish what she started. The minutes tick by, each one slower than the last. I pace the room, the four-pole dragging behind me, until finally, I hear a commotion in the hallway. The door swings open, and Alex strides in, his expression a mix of concern and confusion. "Jack, what the hell is going on?" he demands, glancing around the room like he expects someone to jump out at him. "I'll explain on the way," I say, already pulling the four out of my arm, ignoring the sharp sting of the needle. "We need to get out of here. Now." Alex doesn't argue, just grabs my bag from the foot of the bed and helps me into a pair of sweats and a hoodie. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," I reply, my mind already working through the possibilities. "And then, we're going to find out what the hell Rachel is up to." We slip out of the room, avoiding the nurses and orderlies as we make our way to the exit. The hospital is waking up, the halls busier than they were last night, but no one seems to notice us. We step out into the cool morning air, the sun just beginning to rise over the horizon. Alex's car is parked nearby, an old, beat-up sedan that blends in perfectly with the other vehicles in the lot. We climb in, and I glance back at the hospital one last time, a shiver running down my spine. "Where to?" Alex asks as he starts the engine. "Just drive," I say, my eyes on the rearview mirror. "I'll tell you everything once we're out of here." He nods, and we pull out of the lot, leaving the hospital and the nightmare it holds behind. But I know this is far from over. Rachel and that doctor are still out there, and they won't stop until they get what they want. But I'm not going to let that happen. Not without a fight. The car hurtles down the highway, the world outside a blur of motion and color. Alex drives with a focus that borders on intensity, his knuckles white as he grips the steering wheel. The silence between us is heavy, punctuated only by the hum of the engine and the rhythmic thumping of my heart in my chest. I stare out the window, my thoughts a tangled mess of fear, anger, and disbelief. Rachel, my wife, tried to kill me. And not just that, she was involved with that doctor in some sick, twisted plot. I can't shake the image of them in the morgue, her half-naked, him with that vial in his hand. The betrayal is a wound that's still raw, still bleeding. "Jack," Alex says, breaking the silence. His voice is steady, but I can hear the underlying concern. "You need to tell me everything. I mean everything. What the hell happened?" I take a deep breath, trying to find the words to explain the nightmare my life has become. "It started last night," I begin, my voice low, as if saying it too loudly will make it more real. "I was at home. Rachel made dinner, pasta, like she always does on Thursdays. We had wine. Everything seemed normal, but then I started feeling off, dizzy. The next thing I know, I'm waking up in a hospital bed." Alex glances at me, his brow furrowed. "And you think Rachel poisoned you?" "I know she did," I reply, my fists clenching in my lap. "The doctor said it wasn't accidental, and then I saw them, Alex. I saw Rachel and that doctor together in the morgue." He frowns, confusion etching deeper lines into his face. "The morgue? What were you doing there?" "I wasn't supposed to be there," I say, shaking my head. "I was trying to find Rachel, see if she'd come to the hospital. I ended up in the wrong place, but I saw them, Alex. They were talking about me, about how much longer they had before I was out of the picture. And then, I can't bring myself to say the words, the image of Rachel with that man still too fresh, too painful." "Jesus Christ," Alex mutters, his hands tightening on the wheel. "This is messed up, Jack. Really messed up." "You're telling me," I reply, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't even know where to start. I just know I can't go back. Not until I figure out what's really going on." Alex nods, his jaw set. "We need a plan. We need to lay low, figure out what Rachel and that doctor are up to, and then we deal with it." His words are simple, but the weight behind them is clear. Deal with it could mean 100 different things, and right now, I'm not sure which one I'm ready for. But one thing is certain, I'm not going to let Rachel get away with this. We drive in silence for a while longer, the tension in the car thickening with each passing mile. Finally, Alex speaks up again. "I know a place," he says, glancing at me out of the corner of his eye. It's not fancy, but it's out of the way. No one will find us there. We can figure things out from there. I nod, grateful for his calm, for his unwavering loyalty. Thanks, Alex. I don't know what I'd do without you. Don't mention it, he replies, his tone gruff. You do the same for me. We take an exit off the highway, the car bumping along a narrow, winding road that leads us deeper into the countryside. The landscape changes, the city giving way to fields and forests, the hustle and bustle replaced by the quiet murmur of nature. It's the kind of place where people go to disappear, to escape from the world. After what feels like an eternity, we pull up to a small, run-down cabin nestled at the edge of a dense forest. It's the kind of place that looks abandoned, forgotten by time. The windows are grimy, the wood weathered and cracked. But it's perfect, no one would think to look for us here. This is it, Alex says, cutting the engine. It's not much, but it'll keep us off the radar for a while. I nod, already feeling a sense of relief as I step out of the car. The air is crisp, clean, a welcome change from the stifling atmosphere of the hospital. We grab our bags, and Alex leads the way inside. The cabin is small, just one main room with a kitchenette and a couple of old, worn-out couches. There's a door leading to what I assume is a bedroom and another to a bathroom. It's bare, but it's enough. Alex drops his bag on the floor and turns to me. First things first, he says, his tone all business. We need to figure out what Rachel and that doctor are up to. You said you overheard them talking about you. Did they mention anything specific? I think back to the conversation, trying to remember every detail. They mentioned a timeline, I say slowly. Something about how much longer they had before I was out of the picture. And the doctor, he had this vial. I don't know what was in it, but it didn't look like medicine. Alex frowns, pacing the small room. Okay, so they're planning something, and they need you out of the way to do it. But why? What's the endgame here? That's what I don't get, I admit, frustration creeping into my voice. I mean, Rachel and I weren't exactly in the best place, but this? It doesn't make sense. Maybe it's not about you, Alex suggests, stopping to look at me. Maybe it's about something bigger. Money? Insurance? Does Rachel stand to gain anything if you're gone? The question hangs in the air, and I realize with a sinking feeling that I don't know the answer. We'd never talked about life insurance or anything like that, but we'd been married for years. There must be something in place. I don't know, I say finally. But it's possible. Alex nods, his mind already working through the possibilities. We need to dig into this. Find out what Rachel's been up to, what she stands to gain from all this. If it's about money, there's got to be a paper trail. How do we do that? I ask, feeling overwhelmed by the enormity of the task ahead. I've got some contacts, Alex says, pulling out his phone. People who owe me favors. They can look into Rachel's financials, see if there's anything that stands out. In the meantime, we need to keep a low profile. No phones, no internet. If Rachel and that doctor are really after you, we can't risk them tracking us down. I nod, the gravity of the situation sinking in. What about the police? I ask, remembering Detective Harris. Should we go to them? Alex shakes his head. Not yet. We don't know who we can trust. If Rachel's in this deep, there's no telling how far she's gone to cover her tracks. We need proof, solid proof, before we bring anyone else in. I agree, though the thought of going it alone, without the safety net of the law, is terrifying. But Alex is right, we need to be smart about this. One wrong move, and it could all be over. We spend the rest of the day holed up in the cabin, going over everything we know, every possible angle. Alex makes a few calls, speaking in hushed tones as he sets things in motion. I try to help, but my mind keeps drifting back to Rachel, to the life we had before everything went to hell. How did it come to this? How could I have been so blind? As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the room, Alex hangs up the phone and turns to me. Okay, I've got some people looking into Rachel's financials. We should have something by tomorrow. In the meantime, we need to get some rest. It's going to be a long few days. I nod, though I know sleep will be hard to come by. My mind is still racing, still trying to make sense of the impossible. Thanks, Alex, I say again, my voice heavy with gratitude. He just nods, his expression serious. We're going to get through this, Jack. But you need to stay strong, stay focused. We're in the thick of it now, and there's no turning back. I swallow hard, the weight of his words pressing down on me. He's right, there's no turning back. Whatever Rachel is planning, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to find out the truth, no matter what it takes. And when I do, there will be hell to pay. The night closes in around us, the cabin growing darker as the last light fades from the sky. I lie on one of the couches, staring up at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the forest outside. My thoughts drift, circling back to Rachel, to the life we once shared, to the love that now feels like a distant memory. Sleep eventually claims me, but it's restless, filled with dark dreams of betrayal and revenge. And when I wake in the early hours of the morning, the first thing I feel is the cold, hard resolve that has settled deep in my bones. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. The dawn breaks with an eerie stillness, the kind that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. I've barely slept, my mind too restless, too haunted by everything that's happened. The cabin feels claustrophobic, the walls pressing in on me, suffocating me with the weight of my own thoughts. Alex is up early too, pacing the small space, his phone clutched in his hand. He's been waiting for a call, for news from his contacts, something that will finally give us the answers we need. The air between us is thick with tension, unspoken fears hanging like a dark cloud. Anything yet? I ask, my voice rough from lack of sleep. He shakes his head, his expression grim. Not yet. But they should be calling any minute now. We fall into another uneasy silence, the seconds ticking by like hours. I can feel the pressure building, the anxiety gnawing at my insides. I need to know what's going on, why Rachel did this, what she stands to gain. I need to know if there's any hope of making sense of the madness my life has become. Finally, the phone rings, the sound slicing through the silence like a knife. Alex answers it immediately, his voice low and urgent. I watch him, my heart pounding in my chest, as he listens to whatever the person on the other end is telling him. His expression darkens, his eyes narrowing as the conversation continues. When he hangs up, he turns to me, his face a mask of controlled anger. We've got something, he says, his tone tight. But you're not going to like it. Just tell me, I demand, my patience wearing thin. What did they find? Alex takes a deep breath, like he's bracing himself for what's coming. Rachel has been making some very large withdrawals from your joint account over the past few months. Significant amounts of money have been moved to an offshore account, one that's only in her name. My stomach drops. So it's about money, I say, the realization settling in like a cold stone. She was going to kill me for money. There's more, Alex continues, his voice steady but with a hard edge. She's also taken out a life insurance policy on you, one that would pay out millions if you died under accidental circumstances. The pieces of the puzzle finally click into place, and the full extent of Rachel's betrayal hits me like a freight train. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was planning to kill me, to cash in on my death and disappear with a fortune. I feel sick, disgusted by how easily I was manipulated, how completely I was played. I can't believe it, I whisper, more to myself than to Alex. How could she do this? Alex shakes his head, his expression hardening. People do terrible things when there's money involved. But this is beyond that. This is cold-blooded. I nod, numb from the shock, from the overwhelming sense of betrayal. So what do we do now? I ask, though I already know the answer. We go to the police, Alex says firmly. We've got the evidence now. They can arrest her, charge her with attempted murder and fraud. She'll pay for what she did. I nod again, but there's a part of me that's not satisfied with that. A part of me that wants more than just seeing her behind bars. I want her to suffer the way she's made me suffer. I want her to feel the same pain, the same despair. Before I can voice these thoughts, there's a knock on the door, a sharp, insistent sound that makes both of us jump. Alex motions for me to stay back as he approaches the door, his hand reaching for the gun he keeps tucked in his waistband. "Who is it?" Alex calls, his voice tense. "It's me," a voice replies, muffled through the wood. "Rachel." My blood runs cold. How did she find us? And why is she here? Alex glances back at me, his eyes asking the same questions. He takes a deep breath, then opens the door, keeping his gun out of sight but ready. Rachel stands in the doorway, looking disheveled, almost desperate. Her eyes are wide, darting between Alex and me, and there's a frantic energy about her that sets off every alarm in my head. "Jack," she says, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you. Please, just hear me out." I step forward, my emotions a tangled mess of anger, confusion, and a sick curiosity. "You've got some nerve showing up here, Rachel," I say, my voice cold, devoid of the love that once filled it. "I know," she replies quickly, her hands shaking as she clasps them together. "I know how it looks, but you have to believe me, I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "Didn't mean for what?" I snap, the anger finally breaking through. "Didn't mean to poison me? Didn't mean to cheat on me with that doctor? Didn't mean to steal my money and plot my death?" Tears well up in her eyes, but I don't feel any sympathy. Not anymore. "Jack, please," she pleads, her voice breaking. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was in over my head, I didn't know what else to do." "Save it," I say, my voice hard. "I don't want to hear your excuses." But she presses on, desperation creeping into her voice. "It was Dr. Bennett," she says, her eyes wide with fear. "He was the one who came up with the plan. He threatened me, Jack. He said if I didn't go along with it, he'd kill both of us." I narrow my eyes, trying to sift through the lies, trying to find the truth buried somewhere in this mess. "So what, you're the victim now? You expect me to believe that?" Rachel shakes her head, her tears flowing freely now. "No, I know I'm not innocent. I'm guilty of a lot of things, but I never wanted you dead. Please, you have to believe me." I look at her, this woman I once loved, and all I see is a stranger who betrayed me in the worst possible way. "Why are you here, Rachel?" I ask, my voice cold. "What do you want?" She hesitates, her eyes flicking to Alex before returning to me. "I want to make things right," she says softly. "I want to help you bring down Dr. Bennett. He's the real danger here, Jack. He's the one who needs to be stopped." Alex steps forward, his expression skeptical. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Rachel looks at him, then back at me. "I can get him to confess," she says, her voice trembling with fear and resolve. "I can get him on tape, admitting everything. But I need your help. I can't do it alone." The room falls silent as I consider her offer, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I don't trust her, not after everything she's done. But if there's even a chance that she's telling the truth, that we can stop this monster who's been pulling the strings. Before I can respond, Alex speaks up. "This could be a trap," he warns, his voice low. "We can't trust her, Jack. She's already proven she'll do whatever it takes to save her own skin." "I know," I say, my voice just as low. "But if we can get Dr. Bennett to confess, if we can get proof of what he's done." Rachel nods eagerly, desperation in her eyes. "Exactly. We can stop him, Jack. But we have to do it together." I stare at her, weighing my options, my heart torn between the desire for justice and the overwhelming sense of betrayal. Finally, I make my decision. "Fine," I say, my voice hard. "We'll do it. But know this, Rachel, this doesn't change anything between us. After this is over, you're out of my life for good. Rachel flinches at my words, but she nods, her expression resolute. I understand, she says quietly. I deserve that. Alex looks at me, his eyes filled with doubt, but he nods as well. All right. But we do this carefully. One wrong move, and we're all dead. Rachel nods again, her face pale. I'll do whatever it takes, she says, her voice trembling. I just want to end this nightmare. We spend the next few hours planning, going over every detail, every possible scenario. Rachel agrees to meet Dr. Bennett at a secluded spot, where she'll secretly record their conversation. Alex and I will be close by, ready to intervene if things go south. As night falls, the tension in the cabin is palpable. We drive to the meeting spot in silence, the weight of what we're about to do hanging heavy in the air. The place Rachel chose is perfect, remote, isolated, with plenty of cover for Alex and me to hide. Rachel gets out of the car, her face pale and drawn, and walks to the agreed-upon spot. I watch from the shadows, my heart pounding in my chest as I wait for Dr. Bennett to arrive. Minutes feel like hours as we wait, the night growing darker, colder. Finally, we hear the sound of a car approaching. A sleek black sedan pulls up, and Dr. Bennett steps out, his expression calm, controlled. He approaches Rachel, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. Rachel, he says, his voice smooth, but with an edge of danger. What's this all about? I wanted to talk, Rachel says, her voice shaking. About everything. Dr. Bennett studies her for a moment, then smiles, a cold, calculated smile. You're not thinking of backing out now, are you? No, she says quickly, her hand shaking as she clutches her purse, the purse where she's hidden the recording device. I wanted to make sure we're still on the same page. Dr. Bennett steps closer, his smile widening. Oh, we're definitely on the same page. But I have to say, Rachel, I'm a bit disappointed. I thought you were smarter than this. Rachel freezes, her eyes widening in fear. What do you mean? He reaches out, his hand wrapping around her wrist with a vice-like grip. I mean, did you really think I wouldn't know what you were planning? Did you think I wouldn't notice the little recorder in your bag? My heart drops as I realize what's happening. Dr. Bennett knows. He's known all along. Before I can react, Dr. Bennett pulls Rachel closer, his expression darkening. You should have just stuck to the plan, Rachel. Now, you force my hand. Without thinking, I burst out of the shadows, Alex right behind me. Let her go. I shout, my voice echoing in the night. Dr. Bennett turns to face us, his smile fading into a cold, deadly glare. Well, he says, his voice dripping with malice. Look who decided to join the party. Look who decided out of his pocket, a syringe, filled with a clear liquid. My heart races as I realize what it is. Don't do this, I plead, stepping forward, my hands raised. You don't have to do this. Oh, but I do, Dr. Bennett replies, his voice calm, almost casual. Rachel made her choice. And now, you've made yours. He moves to plunge the syringe into Rachel's arm, but before he can, Alex pulls out his gun, aiming it at Dr. Bennett. Drop it, he commands, his voice steady. Right now, or I'll shoot. For a moment, time seems to stand still. Dr. Bennett's eyes flick to the gun, then back to Rachel, calculating, weighing his options. Finally, he lets out a low chuckle and releases Rachel, letting the syringe drop to the ground. You win this round, he says, his voice laced with contempt. But this isn't over. Before any of us can react, he turns and bolts for his car. Alex fires a shot, but it misses, and Dr. Bennett dives into the driver's seat, slamming the door behind him. The engine roars to life, and within seconds, he's speeding away, leaving us standing there, breathless, shaken. Rachel collapses to the ground, sobbing in relief, fear, and guilt. I move to her, kneeling beside her, but I can't bring myself to comfort her. The anger, the betrayal, it's all too much. Is it over? She whispers, her voice broken. I shake my head, my jaw clenched. No, I say, my voice cold. Not until he's caught. Alex lowers his gun, his expression grim. We need to get out of here. Now. We help Rachel to her feet, and the three of us hurry back to the car. As we drive away, I can't shake the feeling that this is far from over, that Dr. Bennett is still out there, still a threat. But there's something else too, a cold, hard truth that I can no longer deny. Even if we stop Dr. Bennett, even if we bring him to justice, the damage is done. Rachel and I, we're broken beyond repair. As we drive in silence, the reality of it all settles in. When this is over, when the dust finally settles, Rachel and I will go our separate ways. There's no coming back from this. No forgiveness, no reconciliation. Only the bitter ashes of what once was. We drive through the night, the road stretching out before us, leading to a future that's uncertain, but inevitable. And in that silence, I know one thing for sure. This is the end.